You're welcome back to Peace Zone with Peace Ambassadors, where we discuss peace and conflict-related issues. And my guest is already here. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
But let me give you the introduction and let me put them on suspense about who my guest is. My guest on today's episode of Peace Zone has been actively involved in development work for over 15 years, and as is a professional development activist who has core expertise in peace building, community mobilization, development, human rights, gender integration, social development, youth engagement, budget tracking, and monitoring, to mention a few. He has also worked with different organizations, just international organization, who has worked on advocacy, education, democracy, and all that. And some of these organizations are British Council, Creative Associate International, Equal Access International, and just to mention just that. And he's the current executive director of CLEEN Foundation, a non-governmental organization founded in 1998 with the mission of promoting public safety, security, and justice through empirical research, legislative advocacy, demonstration programs, and publication. And he has worked among government-owned based engagement, civil society organization, and private sector. And that is why he's qualified to do this for us. You're welcome, Mr. Bugad Peter.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
The pleasure is mine.
And I want to say congratulations on the new office.
Oh, thank you.
We got the news.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll be there to visit you for one of these
Looking forward to having you guys.
Thank you very much. So let's go straight. We're discussing the situation of violent conflict in northern Nigeria and the role of civil society organization. Knowing that you have been in this space for a while, I believe that you have you'll be telling us from your own perspective what are the issues prevalent in northern Nigeria when it comes to issues of conflict since like 2 decades or 3 decades now.
Well, you agree with me that the northern part of Nigeria is a vast area. 19 northern states, you have the middle belt, north central as the case may be, northeast, northwest. And when you take the north central out of these other three, out of the 2 other zones, you're talking about a zone where the level of education is low, where there's level of poverty is high, where you have a high number of non-school kids, talking about the Sangaya school or the Almajiri situation that we find ourselves where kids travel from a long distance, for example, from Maiduguri down to Sokoto to acquire some level of education. There is no Western education, but it's education. And then probably the Malams do not have the capacity to cater for such kids. And so you have them on the street begging. And so such kids can easily be swayed to get into groups that are not pro-people or pro-government or pro-establishment or groups that are negative to the society. Now, when you look at the northern part of Nigeria, they are quite ungoverned spaces, and is a part of a country where you have quite a number of states that are tied to border communities. You have Borno, you have Taraba and Adamawa, you have Zamfara, Sokoto axis. So you have a lot of community that are tied to the borders of the country, and you know very well that our borders are porous. And in terms of governance, the performance of most state government in the north is below average. They don't invest so much in education. They don't invest so much in giving basic amenities to people. And so if you travel to a lot of rural communities, poor roads, poor health facilities, zero education or very low education, and then of course the influence of fanatics that adulterate religion and give it all manners of name. And because there's so much poverty in the land, you have a number of persons that are willing to join them, because nature does not accommodate vacuum.
Yes.
Somebody must
if you're not doing
something must take over. And so when you go to the northeast, you're talking about Boko Haram, ISWAP, and quite a number of others. When you go to the northwest, you're talking about bandits, kidnappers, and all of this. You come to the middle belt, you have the issue of farmers' herders conflict, and all of this associated criminality does not in any way help with the development of that area, does not help in the issue of peace, does not help in the issue of stability. And apart from Plateau and I think Kaduna, there are no states in the 19 northern states that have a peace building agency. And you agree with me that peace building has become an essential commodity, not only in northern part of Nigeria, but across the breadth and spread of this country. And so we need to invest more, in trying to harvest peace, in trying to have curriculum that discuss peace in our schools and places of business, and having a lot of mentors and people that will keep preaching about peace in the mosques, in the church. I mean, anywhere you find yourself, you need to have those kind of advocates.
Well, you've already gone to a whole lot already, and I think we should, while I understand you've discussed some proximate causes, I think we can, I don't want to drag you back, but I want us to stay with the issue of the root causes itself. What do you think are the root causes of this conflict in the first place? And then we will now go into CSO's intervention.
Well, at times it's difficult to identify one cause.
Okay.
It could be impunity.
Okay.
Impunity in the sense that probably people have been abused by the government, communities have been raided, or people have been arrested out of extrajudicial killing, and people are angry and they need to take the laws into their hands. Poverty could be a factor. Lack of education could be a factor. The breakdown of the family system itself is a factor. Where parents do not have influence on their kids, where the community, where we're growing up, there's a community ownership of kids, communal kind of living, where every father has a responsibility towards the son of his neighbor or anything. All those are broken. We have a large population that do not feel the presence of government. And I've identified some of this lack of presence of government. You have a system of a patronage system where you need to belong to a family, or your uncle needs to be somewhere before you get a job. And so when these non-state actors come on board, they offer you little promises of a pair of jeans, machine, and then people join them. And then, of course, the porousness of our border have allowed the proliferation of small and light weapons or arms into our communities. And so once people think they are armed, they could take the laws into their hands. So the breakdown of businesses, economic ventures, when you go around the northern part of Nigeria, people can no longer go to farm because of insecurity. The fish business that used to happen, the lecture base, is no longer as flourishing as possible. Just some few days ago, I was telling a colleague, there used to be the Arugungu Fishing Festival. And honestly, I cannot remember the last time I heard anything about that. And when people can no longer farm and businesses are not flourishing, all of these are underlying factors why you have this. And at the peak of all of this conversation is a failure of governance.
So thank you for breaking that down. I will just want us to go a step further into the role of CSOs. But before we go into the role, who are the CSOs, that civil society organization, by your own description, before we go into what their role are in the northern Nigeria?
Well, civil society organization are basically non-state association or union or people. And if you talk about civil society, you're talking about the Nigeria Bar Association, Nigeria Labour Congress, NUJ, faith-based organization, community-based organization, and of course, part of NGO coalition are all part of CSO, National Union of Road Transport Workers, Association of Market Women. All of us are CSOs. Now, there's a difference between CSOs and NGOs. And so, but all of us in the broader space and where we find ourselves, we're all members of the civil society family. And then you could have people that specializes in certain aspects. And so, but when you talk about civil society in this context, I'm sure you're talking about NGOs because they tend to provide more of those social services to communities. And when we look at the role of NGOs, we're looking at the support they give to the family. In IDP camps, they are there trying to provide succor, providing sanitary pads to women. They speak against human rights violation, trying to ensure that security agent government respect people. They provide water in communities. They provide education in some communities. They just dare to help cushion the effect. But I must quickly add that if government was functioning the way it needs to function, probably a civil society wouldn't have existed. So the CSO is not a parallel government. We're only there to complement the effort of government and say, look, government, we think if you do ABC this way, you're likely to get this kind of response. You're likely to get people on board. And so what's your dialogue mechanism? What's your security architecture? How are you responding to the cries of the people? And a typical example is the fact that NSAS wouldn't have happened if government was a bit more responsive to the outcry of people. Okay. And now this is where CSO will come in and like, look, this young man has been crying since morning government, saying that his rights have been violated. Which agency of government need to respond to this cry? And has that agency of government responded appropriately? Have somebody explained to this young man why such decisions were taken? And so all of this broad-based conversation clearly explain the role of the CSO. And you can see CSO in various communities providing basic amenities. Some of them go for what we call outreach, health outreach, do quick services. Some provide boreholes. Some provide empowerment skills in terms of sewing machine or baking ability and all of this. So it's quite a lot.
So with what we have been doing so far from the angle of CSO, thank God I'm also of the CSO.
You are.
And we are all doing this work. However, by your assessment, do you think we are doing enough? And that by the kind of effort we put into it right now, considering Northern Nigeria, where we started from, with the intervention capacity when we get into the space when the conflict broke out, especially now looking at Boko Haram specifically, 2009 thereabout. Do you think we intervene at the right time? Do you think between that time and now we have done something substantial or something worth talking about as CSOs?
Well, I think clearly there's a limitation to what the CSOs can do.
Okay.
We are not government in any way. Government have the primary responsibility of protecting lives and properties. Our responsibility is to remind government of its duty to the people, and I think we've been doing that a lot. Saying, look, government, do this, don't do this. If you do this, we're going to shout. If you do this, we're going to commend you. And I think the CSO have been able to make government more accountable. If we will be able to make security people more responsive, to know that if you violate the rights of people, there are people out there that will cry, go to court and demand for justice for such victims. We've tried to reduce the impunity around. Now, beyond that, if you go to Maiduguri today, you'll find a lot of buildings, a lot of money have been invested in the Northeast by CSO in providing succor to the people and giving hope to the people. A lot of the IDPs camps that were run hitherto were heavily supported by CSO, both local and international and national NGOs. Okay. And so have we done enough? I'm not sure. Okay. We can still do more, because every day the situation is evolving. There are always new needs and new approach. And in a country like Nigeria, where we're running into 200 million, that's a large society. And so if government itself is not able to address all needs, who are we CSO that will just bring about 2% of our money into what we have?
So that being said, I want to talk about the sustainability of those structures, those things we are looking at, because there have been a lot of queries around that. All these things, do we think they will be sustainable in the long term? The provision of houses to vulnerable groups, the shelter, the clothing, humanitarian interventions we're doing. How sustainable do you think they will be?
Some of them are sustainable. Some is just to help the people have some comfort before they return back to their original homes. So the idea of an IDP camp is not for you to live there for the rest of your life, except something happen. It's expected that once government have been able to bring about peace, once NGOs have been able to create space for dialogue, and you have some level of stability in your community, then you go back home. Now, intervention by NGOs could mean that, look, when you go back to your community, are you a tailor? They could support you with some fundings to start your business all over. Are you a market woman? They could support you for you to buy some measures of gari to start selling, hoping that in that process you're going to do. But for those that have been provided with education, that's a life learning skills. It means that at any point you could pick up and run with it. And even in the midst of all of this crisis, NGOs provided jobs for those host communities in terms of interpreters, people doing research, people gathering information, and a lot more. So I think that the sustainability ties, it depends on the intervention, the entry point of the NGO. And sustainability equally is with the people. Do they own the process? Do they believe in the process? So if an NGO provides water for you, for example, it's your responsibility to maintain that facility. The NGO will move on. You don't expect them to come back and keep fixing broken pipes. So the sustainability lies with the community. How much do they believe in that intervention?
So that goes to my next question. How do you think the people have been receiving this intervention? Do you think they are responding well to this intervention? Or what do you think are the position of the victims or affected population so far in Northern Nigeria?
It differs from community to community. That's what we call do no harm. At times when you get to a community, you need to be sensitive to what the people are going through, and you don't want the people to over depend on you. You're only you're only coming to support them at that moment of need. And it's expected that after a while, just like a little child that's giving birth to, you learn how to crawl, you learn how to stand up, you learn how to walk those steps, and then you learn how to run and be a man of your own. So it's expected that at those vulnerable stage that the NGOs are able to support, that you keep planning to go back. If you go to Maiduguri, quite a number of those IDPs are back to their homes. Yeah. NGOs don't need to go back to their homes and support them. Those that are traumatized were provided with psychosocial support and some kind of trauma counseling, healing. That's to help you pick up. Those that lost their husband, that are widows, somebody gave them some kind of support. So it depends on the community. It depends on the willingness of the person to pick up his bit and pieces and to run with it. It depends a lot on several other factors that we may not have time to mention now.
Definitely. Thank you for doing justice to that. But I would like to get your parting words to victims, perpetrators, and potential voices who are doing great work already over there.
Well, like I said a lot, no matter how far you go in conflict, you must come back to the drawing board and to the round table. Why don't you exhaust the round table? There's nowhere on earth the war between Russia and Ukraine is not going to end by use of guns and weapons. Even if you subdue someone today, you can't subdue the person for the rest of his life. We've seen how African emerges over the years. Today, a lot of African nations are running themselves, even though not the way we want it to be run. Government have a responsibility to be fair and firm. Government have a responsibility and a social contract with the people to be government in the true sense of the word. But the question I ask myself every day, even if there is no government, won't we run our own society as human beings? You know, I watch a lot of this documentary. I mean, a station quickly, not Joe Wild. Animals hardly kill animals they don't eat, except in exceptional circumstance. So why would human beings wake up and like, this morning I'm going to raid a community and kill people? You won't eat their meat. You probably won't take anything off them. Whatever you do, you're not going to get any addition. So I think we need to keep preaching peace. We need to keep being sisters and brothers keepers. We need to be there for each other. We need to know that life has a value. And God, in his infinite mercy that created us the way he feels, he equally has the ability to make all of us short, all of us black, fair, but he loves variety. And he makes everybody the way it should, so that the world can be beautiful. And so who are you to now wake up one morning and say we must all be Christian or Muslims, or must all be traditional African worshippers, or all of us must be men or women? You don't have that authority. So in this diversity that we have, we need to look at our strength, we need to appreciate our weakness, and we need to support each other. But government must stop this approach of pretending they don't know their government and they don't know their responsibility.
Those are great words. I'm so glad that you touch almost every part of the question, despite the short period of time. And I'm sure that we are still going to come back to this. Hopefully. There will be different parts to this, definitely. Special thanks to our guest, Mr. Gad Peter. And I believe that when we call back on you, you're going to...
I will definitely make up for lost time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined this show. For you that you're looking at this, it is a call for us to appreciate peace building and to do everything to protect the peace we are enjoying right now. It's also important, just like I said while we started, this show needs sponsorship, we need partnership, and it is important. If you're interested, please do well to contact +234 8109 661910 or reach out to us via ppepnet@gmail.com or pepnet peace zone 2023@gmail.com. Our deepest appreciation to Captain TV management team, to the management of PEPNET, Peace Education and Practice Network, and to the Peace Zone Project crew for doing a wonderful work. And we are also shouting out, we are making a shout out to all humanitarian workers doing wonderful work on field right now, saving the lives of people who are doing different things. I want to say, please stay safe with yourself, stay peaceful, stay secured, and stay developed. Until you see me next week, please stay peaceful. Bye for now.